Ah, bonjour.
Bonjour, Kevin.
That's the one French word I know. So
That's enough.
we're talking about New Orleans and its francophone culture here on the show today with Audrey. So this one. All right, today on the show, this is going to be great. Audrey, thank you so much for coming. You're with the. It's the Alliance for French. Help me out. Alliance Française.
Alliance Francaise
Okay,
de la
so it wasn't
Nouvelle
too far.
Orleans.
Okay. And so you are basically the Alliance Française promotes and helps and teaches French classes specifically.
Specifically, yeah. We are a non-profit, a New Orleans non-profit, but we are part of an international network of Alliance Française chapters.
Okay.
And our goal and our statement is that we teach and promote French and Francophone culture and languages.
Okay.
Plural for cultures and plural for languages.
Oh, okay.
So we do teach French. That's our core.
Cool, uh-huh.
We also do Francophone and French cultural events, and we promote Francophony in general.
So y'all in this particular, so you said you got a bunch of them around the country. So the one here in New Orleans must be very interesting because we are sort of a francophone-ish type of culture. I guess.
Exactly. This one is special, I can tell, because I'm in a relationship with other fellow directors all over the world. And when I told them that I was going to be the head of the Alliance Française in New Orleans, they were jealous, I can tell. And also very excited to know more about Francophony in New Orleans. There's an idea that in France that everybody in New Orleans speaks French somehow, or at least that there's an interest. I can tell there's an interest.
Yes.
And not everybody speaks French.
Yeah, no,
Even with a French name, right?
Yes. My Cajun French last name, anyway.
But this alliance is, it's special because we are immersed in such a unique culture that finds its roots in France and in a French Louisiana friendship and ancient relation.
Yeah.
So, and also with the language, when I first took my position, I have had a hard time and it took me a few months to understand what was behind this Cajun identity,
because
the Creole identity. This is the first
I'm
time
very Acadiana. Yeah. So from my understanding, and you'd probably be able to help me out on that. My great grandparents would have spoke French, but I think in the school system or whatever, from what I was told anyway, that was kind of beat out of them when New Orleans was during the World Wars, was a major port, and it was easier to do business with the rest of the country if you spoke English. So I think English was really kind of predominated at that point. But then by the time my grandparents got around, my grandparents never spoke French.
You know? Even a few words at home sometimes?
So my grandparents would be the ones to kind of throw in, like, I can remember my grandmother never said understand, she always said comprendre.
That's interesting.
So and that was like the one word that she always just said comprendre. So like if she was like, Kevin, do this, and it would be like, instead of asking me like, do you understand or whatever, or like, okay, it was almost like she would use comprendre.
Yeah,
like,
interesting.
do you understand what I'm saying? So she said that, and so there was a few little like French words there, but then my parents would have been no French.
That's true that after English was established as the official language at school, and some schools totally banned French. Most of the school actually in the public school banned French. From the school, it became more and more a language that was spoken at home only, and if the kid don't speak French, they speak English with their parents, and finally there's a lost generation, maybe two lost generations for French in Louisiana. The good news is that the language is coming back through the kids actually and through education. The main thing is that today there are 36,000 children learning French in Louisiana?
36,000
Yeah,
children.
it's
and
big.
see, children, and you see, so I have a 4-year-old and a 4-month-old, 2 boys, and I would like them to get into some type of immersion thing like that. I feel like me at my age, like, so I took French. So I should say this: I took French in high school and college. So I took 4 years of French, but I never used it outside the classroom. So I don't know it. I lost
course,
it.
yeah.
But I feel like if you pick up when you say children, if you got 36,000 kids, I feel like their minds are just more like squishy and can absorb.
My gosh, I can tell. I can tell. So there are like 7, I think it's 7 immersion program in New Orleans, and of course, kids they just absorb the language. We learn, and it's difficult sometimes to learn a language.
I feel like I can't.
But
I
you can. You
I'm
probably
sure.
can. Everybody can. I mean, at the Alliance we teach immersion style classes only, which is it's not. I mean, you can because you have to.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's
right,
the same
right.
if you go to France and you'll have to survive and you'll have to be able
You learn
to
how to
learn.
say ATM machine in France.
Exactly. So back to the kids, which is real. I mean, there are many studies about this. The earlier you learn a language, the easier it is because you don't learn it, you absorb it, and it becomes like. And also, you're not shy. I can tell with my sons, and also with our students. We teach French to adults and kids as well. And the kids we have, they are not afraid to make mistake, you know? Not at all.
Right, right.
So they're not afraid to make mistake. They are eager to communicate. So it's easier for kids. What's interesting on a bigger perspective for New Orleans and Louisiana in general is that with this interest, and you're the perfect example. You said, I would like my kids to go in an immersion program.
Yes.
And it probably will bring you back to this root language through your kids. So this is what we really encourage with the immersion program at school and also at the Alliance, because we believe it's a true asset individually for someone to speak 2 languages, and especially French, because this is the 4th language, business language, for instance, all over the world. We are focused on Chinese, Spanish, and English, but it makes a difference when you speak French. So, and having those kids bringing French back at home, it's also really interesting. You cannot even imagine how many parents come to us and say, okay, I cannot understand the secret language of my
kids, so I gotta learn French.
So
that's the one thing I'm worried about. I'm actually very worried about that. That's my concern.
My 2 kids,
they're gonna be able to talk about us, and I can't understand what they're saying.
My 2 sons, they start to speak better English than I do. I mean, they speak better English than I do, and sometimes I have a hard time.
Where are you from? I didn't ask that question at the beginning.
I'm from near Lyon in France, but I was in Marseille before I moved here.
Okay.
So Marseille, south of France.
South of France, okay.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking about that, let me dive into this a little bit, because I've always heard like, oh well, my great grandparents spoke Cajun French, and that's different. You know, is it? And I mean, I guess without being a French speaker, it's hard for me to really like think of like understand that. But what does that mean? Is it different dialects? Is it different? Can you give me an example of what Cajun French would be and what like Parisian French would be, and how does the south of France differ from?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that all?
That was exactly what I was about to say. This is different, and I can think about an example.
But then, of course, with it being dead, with it dying off for a generation, what would have New Orleans's French accent would have been like if we'd have been speaking it also?
And also it's like so. And for instance, last week I was in a restaurant and the server was speaking French, and I said it was speaking French, but he was apologizing to me because he said, "Oh, my French is a Cajun French," and I said, "I understand you perfectly. Your French is great." You know, there's always that thing that, oh, it's different. Yes, it's different, but both are francophone languages. You know, and back to the south of France. Or some region in north of France. Sometimes with the accent, the dialect, the way of people joke, it's more different than the Cajun French to me. You know, it can sound really weird at the beginning. I'd say the Cajun French, of course, for a French from France. Sound a little bit like the Canadian French, you know?
Yeah.
It's really what I really like is like it sounds like poetry because it's maybe probably, and it's up to me, more a spoken language. So it's really, and it's also maybe can be the importance of rhythm and music in there. But I really think that
That's beautiful.
To me, it sounds like poetry. We have had
That's actually beautiful. That's beautiful.
we have had an open mic for Francophone poetry at the Alliance once, and really I was just closing my eyes and listening to this.
It's more sing-songy? Is that that's my not pretty way of saying it, you know?
Yeah, maybe.
It's more
I think so.
It's got more
I think so.
It's interesting.
So I like it a lot, and so we have been asked to teach Cajun French, and I prefer when our teacher, put some parallelism between Cajun French, and Français de France in their classes. But we are moving forward and think also of having a Creole class, but because it's another and some say bigger influence in Francophone influence in Louisiana. And fun fact, my president sometimes sent me texts written in Creole. And when I first read it, I don't understand. But if I read it loud, if I speak it,
you can't physically read it, but
I will totally understand if I speak it. So this is how Francophonie diverse is in your
wow. No, that's great. No, that's so. And then for me, I just kind of see like, not that America is. America is America. It's a powerhouse. English is, like you're saying, is the business language. But I feel like by giving my kids, and this is just my feeling, I feel like giving my kids a second language or a basis in a second language, that kind of opens them up to a little bit more of the world. Like they have more opportunities globally.
Of course they do.
So I guess my question then is, how does the Alliance, right? Alliance.
Great, you're doing great.
Alliance Francaise. How does something like that, like, okay, since we're teaching kids, we're teaching adults to bring, we're teaching them French, how does that help the region, how would that help the region economically to have that?
I think our goal is to be part of this virtuous circle, with more, if there's more interest for French in Louisiana area and New Orleans especially, there are going to be more French speakers, there are going to be more French events, and this will bring more Francophone tourists and more French companies as well. We have some big companies, French companies in town already.
Yes, we do. I have learned that myself. The company that runs RTA, Transdev, they're French.
Sure.
Because when I had one of the city council people on it, we were talking about streetcars, and that I noticed that particular video got almost as many views in Paris as it did in New Orleans, because they were sharing the link, like, here's what she had to say about this. So I was like, whoa, like that jumped out at me, as because we know French is, we know New Orleans is French, but to really see something like physical like that today, shows that connection. So yeah, we do have a lot of French.
And I mean, it's obvious that on a bigger picture for New Orleans economy, having French and worldwide company is an asset. The other thing, and I truly believe in it, is that learning another language opens your mind in general. And it's, for kids and adults, speaking another language is seeing the world with different eyes. And it's important that we bring this in education, I think. And it can make a big difference in the US. To have, this.
Well, this was my big. So when you say that, here's my one little example. You'd be like, that's like a great little example of this, because different languages have different ways of expressing different emotions. So the number one thing that when I learned French, I was like, when I learned French, that there is a second person plural.
Yes.
That's, to me, I don't understand why English doesn't have a
And that's a
second
big- yeah.
person plural. So we would use, the southern United States would use y'all.
Yeah.
We'd say you as I guess vous.
And not
you know.
vous, exactly.
So that's such a great and useful word. Like, y'all need to do this, or hey, you guys need to, like, that second person plural. So I guess that's a small little example of what you're talking about.
And also because we use the vous also for as a polite
way of saying, like,
saying
you. Like,
And so this is a perfect example. And back to the discussion we had about like the Cajun French and Français de France. For instance, there's no vouvoiement, no vous as polite way of talking to people in Cajun French, which is the same. It's a difference. It's one of the differences.
It's a difference.
It's a difference.
I guess that would be my one example in my brain of that.
Of course.
That's when it's like, oh, duh, why isn't there a way to say y'all without sounding like you're from Alabama?
And it's interesting to see how those kids in immersion program build their sentence in French sometimes with English structure, and it's really, you can see that they are really opening their mind, and they are more, many studies say so, they are more flexible, they are more able to adapt to different contexts. And this is a true asset on, an education point of view and an economic point of view as well. Being part of this virtual circle is a pride for us. And also, back to the international network, it's something that makes Alliance Française in New Orleans special. You know? Kind of.
So Alliance Française, I'm getting better at it, huh?
Yeah.
So, and I'll put the link down below so you can check out all of them. You have events, you have teaching. You teach French, but you have French cultural events and all kind of different stuff like that. So I'm going to link it down below so everyone can check it out. And thank you so much for coming by.
Merci beaucoup.
Yeah, merci.